This podcast is hosted by Buzzsprout. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners. The team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message to the world. If you want an upgrade, Buzzsprout has tons of guides to help you find exactly what you need. We use Buzzsprout and it's a game changer for us. An all new analytics system helps us track who's listening to our show and where they're listening to it. If you'd like to use Buzzsprout as well, follow the link in our show notes to buzzsprout.com. And while you're there, let them know that Films and Fermentation sent you.
Hello, Spooklings.
I'm Jason,
And I'm Kathy.
and we're the hosts of the weekly podcast, All Hallows Eve Podcast.
We are a husband and wife duo with a passion for anything spooky, macabre, and true crime, sprinkled with our own twist of comedy.
We explore topics such as the history of Halloween, the Butcher of Plainfield, Hocus Pocus 2, urban legends, superstitions, and more.
So come join us as we go down the rabbit hole that is All Hallows Eve Podcast.
Listen and follow us at allhallowsevepodcast.com or your favorite podcast provider.
Stay spooky, my friends.
Hey there, curiosity connoisseurs. Are you intrigued by all things strange, weird, and unusual, but too embarrassed to talk with your friends and family about it?
Well, we're your family now.
Join me, chronically curious Katie,
And me, combat veteran Chris, as we don our tinfoil hats and question everything.
from crazy mysteries, out of this world conspiracies, and the unbelievable happenings all around us.
Let's try to stay sane as we laugh and explore together through our podcast, Stop Thinking with Your Butt.
Wherever you like to listen.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Films and Fermentation, episode 108. Hey, what's on the menu? That's right, we are Films and Fermentation, a movie and alcohol podcast. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
We're three friends who like to talk shit about movies while getting shit-faced. On this episode, we're taking a look at food in the movies. If there's one thing we love as much as movies and alcohol, it's food. We're looking at movies that are about food, feature food, or have at least one scene where food plays an important role. And how we broke this down is we have some categories that we made some picks, and we're going to discuss whether or not our picks are the right picks or something should be the new number one or whatever it might be. But we're going to have some fun with food this evening. Don't forget to drop us an email at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com or visit linktree.com/filmsandfermentation to find all of our social media and podcast links. Don't forget you can pick up our merchandise at teespring.com or support the show at Patreon. As always, gentlemen, the most important part of this show, what are we drinking?
Okay.
I'm going to
so
go, you want to go first, Mike, or should I go first?
Either way, doesn't matter.
Okay,
I'm-
fine. I'll go first.
All right,
Jesus,
Kevin,
guys.
great.
All you had to do was say it.
Jeez,
yeah,
Cat, took
man.
long enough.
All right. Well, I have a industrial sized can of Black
Black.
River Irish Stout from Mike.
It's Left Nut Brewery, now called Liquid.
Liquid nitrogen.
No, I got it right here. Oh no. Shit.
Like liquid dreams or something like that.
It's still LNB, so it's Liquid something beverages
Okay.
brewery.
But
Okay.
yes, I have the same can of Irish Stout, but it's not what I'm drinking this evening. So
This is what my good friend Mike has brought me, and Figured I'd
I didn't have six
give it a
packs.
go.
I got.
It's really
Oh
good
my
though,
God.
and I'm saving it for my beer bread.
It is thick.
If I had time today, I would have made beer bread for the show. Since we're doing food, I decided to go, since I just finished scarfing down my dinner literally 5 minutes before we started recording. I decided to go with a food-based beverage. This is also from my friend Mike. This is from Devil's Backbone Distilling Company. It is their Orange Smash.
Ooh.
It is a vodka-based drink with orange juice and natural citrus flavors, 10% alcohol by volume,
Well,
and refreshing on this very hot day.
since yesterday was National Moonshine Day, I decided to have some moonshine tonight. So I got one of my recipe cards out and got what they call Shine Sickle Margarita. So it's 2 parts orange creamsicle moonshine, 1 part margarita moonshine, and 3 parts sour mix.
Mm.
It is good. I've already had one.
Sounds really good. I'm definitely going to probably crack open another can of the Orange Smash before the show's over. I was going to use something with the Old Smoky strawberry lemonade that you got me, strawberry lemonade bourbon, but I didn't have a chance to mix anything when I got home. I wanted to just start recording, so.
I still have half a shaker full, so.
So, Mike, did anything important happen this week? Actually, I was going to ask you if I can read the first one since I put it on there because I'm still giggling about it.
Sure. This week in film history.
This week in film history, Robert De Niro, at 79 years old, announced the birth of his 7th child with current girlfriend Tiffany Chen, who is 45 years old. Not to be outdone, Al Pacino, at 83 years old, is expecting his 4th child with current girlfriend Noir Afala, who is 29 years old. She is younger than his 2 oldest children.
Oh my God.
Dear Lord.
And I think De Niro's oldest kid is like in his 50s. Like, so, yeah. Apparently, they weren't shooting dust out of those old balls.
Apparently not.
Yeah, 29 years old. You got knocked up by an 83-year-old man.
And what did he say? She's
Hooah!
He's got a great ass.
I'm just getting warmed up.
You think that's what he does at the end of it? Hooah, hooah, hooah. De Niro just looks at her and goes, "Are you talking to me?" Nobody else here, so you must be talking to me. So, Mike,
I want to be inside your circle of trust.
Yeah. I have nipples. Can you milk me?
That's his foreplay.
Yeah. All right, getting ourselves back on track here, Mike. Why don't you give us the second one?
In 1989, Dead Poets Society film starring Robert Williams premiered.
And we're all better people for it.
Yes, we are.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I love that movie, though, it did give me a false sense of what being an English teacher is like.
You mean your students did not jump up on the...
I showed the movie to them one time in a poetry class that I taught, and I tried to get them to jump up on the desk and do the "Oh Captain, my Captain," but they refused.
Wow, kids these days, I tell you. No respect.
So you have a must-try beer or craft destination for us this evening, Mike?
I have a craft destination for you. Big Sky Brewing Company. Big Sky is founded in 1995 in the heart of the Northern Rockies with the philosophy of making the best beer possible and having fun doing it. Their flagship beer, Moose Drool Brown Ale, has been their most successful since they opened.
Moose Drool.
Moose Drool.
Sounds delightful.
But Scapegoat Pale Trout Slayer, Scapegoat Pale Trout Slayer and Shake a Day IPA were also year-round favorites. Visit the brewery in beautiful Methuselah to find a large selection of seasonals, special releases, as well as beer to go and merchandise.
Given my track record, I would order the Moose Drool just based on the name, not even really knowing what the beer was. So.
Well,
Same
it's a
here.
brown ale, so.
But it sounds like if it's their most popular one, I probably would have enjoyed it.
Probably.
And you already told us that yesterday, June 1st, as of the recording of this episode, was National Moonshine Day.
Yes, it was.
And we're all better off because of it.
Yes, we are.
That brings us to, once again, my favorite segment, Synopsis According to Glip. Brought to
Well,
you
it seems
by...
like Glip's getting to know us better.
Yeah, Glip's starting to figure us out a little bit here. It only took, 37 episodes. Glip is brought to you by Newsly, all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android. Stop scrolling, start listening. Have the news read to you in a natural human voice. Use the promo code ANDFERMENT and get a 1-month premium subscription for free. Newsly.me. So according to Glip, last week, our episode, which was the movies that made us, the participants discussed Netflix documentary series.
Nope. See, you told them that's not what we did last week.
What was it? It wasn't the... Yeah, it was the
No,
movies that
it
made
was.
us last week.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it
you're
was.
right. My fault.
Oh.
My fault.
You said you already had
Mark.
one of those already, right?
Yeah.
Sure
Halfway
it was
through
just,
that one.
sure it was just one. It's usually Kevin who doesn't remember what we did the week before.
I don't
I was
remember what we did
confused- I was
yesterday.
getting confused with the movies that Time forgot.
No, that was the one that Jason and Kathy did with us.
I know.
No, this was last week was the Netflix documentary series, The Movies That Made Us. And according to Glip, we discussed the Netflix documentary series, star of The Mandalorian actress Ming, Hollywood Walk of Fame, name of the film, themes of Halloween, and different visions of the original movie. I mean, it started out kind of good.
It missed a few things, but yeah.
It kind of trailed off at the end there a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
I did like star of the Mandalorian actress Ming.
Ming.
Ming Na Wen, who got her Hollywood Walk of Fame last week.
It did.
So yeah, it's it was an okay Glip. It wasn't as good as some of the previous ones that we've had. So I had said after rewatching some of the movies that made us that I really wanted to watch Ghostbusters again. So I rewatched Ghostbusters, and believe it or not, having seen the movie like a million times, I actually laughed at something that I had not noticed before. A joke that I had totally not picked up on.
Really?
Hard to believe given how many times I've seen this film. But this is what it was. So it's the beginning of the film. They're at the library investigating the ghost. When they see the books that are stacked up on top of each other, and Venkman does his, "You're right, there's no human being who could possibly stack books like this," right? That scene.
Mhm.
Right after he says that, Dan Aykroyd, who plays Ray in the film, stops and goes, "Listen, do you smell that?" And Bill Murray gives him a look like, "What?" And I'm like, I had to rewind it. I was like, did I just hear that? Like, how did I miss that joke for like 40 fucking years? I've missed that joke. So I listened to it again. He's like, "Listen, do you smell that?" And I'm like, that's such a perfect like Ray, response. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe all the times I've seen this goddamn film that I missed that. Because that is a really funny one-liner. That's gonna be my new thing from now on now. Listen, did you smell that?
Smell that?
Every time Kevin farts.
Every time I fart, which, you could set your clock by it.
We'll be right back after a short break with our main segment, What's on the Menu?
Hello, everybody. Let me ask you a question. When you were a kid, did you ever wonder what teachers talked about in the teacher's lounge?
You probably didn't miss much. It's usually boring stuff like grading papers, lesson planning, and then figuring out the new train schedule.
Train schedule?
Well, I teach in the city.
But sometimes, at one of the not-so-cool tables in the back of the teacher's lounge, you might find us, the Fandalorians, teachers by day, nerds by night.
My name is Mr. Richardson, and by day, Mr. McDonald, Mr. G, and I teach and inspire America's youth.
But by night, we debate, discuss, and argue about all things in the pop culture universe on our podcast.
We discuss all the biggest pop culture topics in the world, like Ozark, Stranger Things, The Marvelous Miss Maisel, Marvel, Star Wars, Top Gun Maverick, The Old Man, Bridgerton, you name it, we'll probably discuss it.
You guys watch Bridgerton?
Yo, season 1 of Bridgerton was awesome. You don't know what you're missing. Since we are teachers, you will always get a ton of background information about our topics and original teacher-themed segments, like our pop culture morning announcements, building meetings, and post-observation reviews of shows and movies. Oh, and arguing. You'll get lots of disagreements and arguing, like way more than I'm comfortable with.
You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Just search for The Fandalorians, Teachers by Day, Nerds by Night.
Then join us every Monday as we look into the current state of fandom and pop culture.
Hey, look, the bell's about to ring. We need to head to the buses. Hopefully we'll see you guys soon.
Well, I mean, they're not going to see us because this is a podcast.
I know.
But they can't even see us when you think about it, so they won't see us either.
Oh my God, you know what I meant. It wasn't literal. Just ring the bell. Ring the bell.
The Fandalorians, Teachers by Day, Nerds by Night. I hope you listen and subscribe to us soon.
I hate you guys.
Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm Deb.
And we host a pretty fun podcast called Today We Laughed and Learned. You know, this is where we discuss all the things we should have learned, but, well, never did. And we have quite a few laughs along the way.
Today We Laughed and Learned with Chris and Deb.
We're curious about everything. Experts on nothing.
Come find us wherever you get your podcasts.
All right. We are back from our short little break with our main segment, What's on the Menu? Movies and Food. Before we get started, I'd like to mention that I put on Twitter asking people to give us their choices for some of the categories that we had on here. Got a lot of people liking and retweeting it, but not too many answers. One of the best ones we got was from Paranormal, the New Normal podcast, who said, best food fight better be Animal House.
Not.
Well, we don't know. We're going to argue it and see what happens. I do want to give a shout out to Back to the Blockbuster podcast. They were the guys who included us on that Good Pods list of the best podcasts for films and stuff.
Yep.
I want to give a shout out to them because they are recording their 100th episode quite soon. So as from one podcast who's had 100 episodes to another, congratulations, guys. That's the Back to the Blockbuster podcast with Gaius, Owen, and Jackson. All right. So what I did for our main segment here was break it down into categories. So our categories are Best Restaurant Movie, Best Food Fight, Funniest Food Scene, Romantic Food Movies, the Single Food Scene. So that's like one scene involving food, not necessarily like a funny scene. Most Shocking Use of Food, which I had a lot of fun researching that. Best Food Order. This is something that was my wife's idea because we were talking about the film that I put at the top of the list earlier. A special junk food award that I'll mention later. I don't want to give it away yet. And some non-category honorable mentions that I just felt, needed to be mentioned, and I didn't really put them anywhere involving any of the other categories. So, let me bring up my show notes here. Here we go. The first category is Best Restaurant Movie. My nominees are Chef, starring Jon Favreau and John Leguizamo. The Menu, starring Ralph Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy. Diner, starring the indomitable Steve Guttenberg. Mystic Pizza, which gave us the debut of Julia Roberts. And The Founder, starring Michael Keaton. As well as one of my favorite Pixar films, Ratatouille, starring a rat as a cook. My winner for Best Restaurant Film, this is my personal choice for Best Restaurant Film, Ratatouille. Do either of you guys want to argue with me on this one, or did I miss anything on this list?
Well, considering that's the only movie on that list I've seen, I can't argue.
There's a movie that's not on the list that I think should be on the list, but it definitely wouldn't be the best restaurant movie. And that
what movie would that be?
Waiting.
Okay, that's the one with Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, and yeah, I mean the entire thing takes place in a restaurant, so I kind of like best restaurant movies. I kind of feel that needs to wedge itself in there. Now that being said, of the movies that are on here, I've seen Ratatouille, I've seen The Menu, I've seen Mystic Pizza and The Founder.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite sure if I've seen Diner.
Diner is an older one. It's from the early 80s. It stars, like I said, Steve Guttenberg. It's one of those like early 80s films. It's like a who's who of who hasn't made it yet. So it came out in 1982. A group of college-age buddies struggle with the imminent passage into adulthood in 1959 Baltimore. So it takes place in a 1950s diner. And it stars Steve Guttenberg, Mickey Rourke, Daniel Stern, Kevin Bacon, and Tim Daly. They're like the five friends who are, contemplating life after like high school and college and all that stuff. You have a young Paul Reiser makes an appearance in the film as well. Ellen Barkin's in the film. It's a comedy. It's one of those like existential 80s comedies where it's funny but also a little bit poignant at the same time.
So kind of like The Breakfast Club.
Kind of like The Breakfast Club, like an early like a predecessor of that. And a lot of the film takes place in this diner. It's almost like a one-scene film.
Mm-hmm.
You could actually probably like translate it into a play really well because it takes place in very little,
kind of like
very few scenes. Kind of like Clerks, yeah. Very, very few scenes. Most of them take place in this diner, but it's a pretty good movie if you've never seen it.
Okay,
I wouldn't put it up.
Vote. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. What are you going to vote for?
I was just going to say I think I'm going to vote for The Menu. That's been the most intriguing and food based and centered around eating.
I'm not
eating
I'm
in death.
I'm not going to argue with that too much. Having watched The Menu myself, like I said after I watched it, it was stuck in my head for a while. Like I couldn't get that movie out of my head. It was so good. It was so funny and darkly funny. Like funnier than I thought it was going to be. I actually thought it was going to get straight up horror film. And even though it's a horror film, it was a funny horror film.
Yeah,
with a really cool twist ending. Interesting use of s'mores. Ray Fiennes looks like he's having the time of his life. Mystic Pizza, as I said, it's a pretty good movie, but it's basically like it's the movie that brought us Matt Damon and Julia Roberts. It's one of their first films.
Yeah.
And The Founder's an interesting movie because it's about the guy that made the McDonald's franchise.
Jim Croc.
Yeah, and how he discovered the McDonald's brothers and their process for making quick food and all that stuff.
And how he stole it all.
I saw that on The Food That Made America on History Channel.
Now, if you want to watch a movie that'll make you hungry watching it, I recommend The Chef with Jon Favreau.
Okay,
it is a movie that really is about the food, and it's
the one with Jean Grey. What can't I think of her name?
Famke Janssen.
Yeah, is that her in that?
No, it's Jon Favreau stars in it. John Leguizamo plays his like partner in his restaurant venture. Scarlett Johansson's in it. Sofia Vergara from Modern Family's in it, and Oliver Platt. And he plays. He's like a high class chef who gets fired from the restaurant he's working at and decides to go into business for himself by opening up a food truck. And his food truck makes all these like really like kind of like designer foods. But he goes around the country, like testing out all these different types of foods and trying out different, menus on different places and gaining traction on Twitter and things like that. To the point that he's finally able to be successful again. And it's a really good movie. Jon Favreau's great in it. But watching them make the food, like you can tell, like he took his time to learn how to make the food so that it was like as authentic as possible. That being said, I'm still keep giving my vote to Ratatouille because I love that fucking rat. And I love that movie. It's one of my favorite Pixar films. The next category is Best Food Fight. The nominees are Blazing Saddles, Animal House, Hook, and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, which I might say is kind of a cheat because it's not really a food fight so much as it is a fight with food. The food is trying to take over the world in that film. That being said, as well, my choice for best food fight, sorry, Paranormal than a Normal podcast, I went with Blazing Saddles and the pie fight scene at the end of the film. And even though I rewatched the Animal House food fight scene, just the food fight scene, I found it on YouTube, where he pops the pimple with the mashed potatoes, and then it turns into it's a funny scene. But I really like the Blazing Saddles scene because it's a culmination of the whole film.
I'm gonna have to go with Hook. Hook reminds me of childhood. Like, I love the idea. You watch the scene; they're pretending to eat. He doesn't get it, and the whole bickering between him and Rufio just kind of triggers his immaturity to the point where he's even scooping up imaginary food. And then when he flicks it and you see it, and then all the food is colorful and bright. You don't want to eat a drop of it, or it looks like pudding. But just how the revelation of everything that's then and there, and how they went at it. I think that's my favorite.
I don't think Hook is a great film per se. I think it has some flaws in it, but I really love the food fight scene in that film.
The food fight's really good in that.
The food fight scene is amazing. Plus, like you said, it's kind of the scene that helps him remember who he was when he was Peter Pan, and it's a fun scene. You can see the childlike nature of Robin Williams coming out in that scene. How good he is working with the other kid actors. One of my favorite pieces of trivia from that film, and has nothing to do with the food fight scene, but I just love it, is at the end when he has to give the sword to one of the kids to name them the new leader of the Lost Boys.
Yeah. Yep.
They didn't tell the kids who he was going to give the sword to, and he didn't say who he was going to give it to until they filmed the scene. So when he hands the sword to the little, round kid, it's the kid's look of shock on his face was natural because he didn't know that he was going to get picked.
Oh, that's cool.
So I thought, and that's a really cool piece of trivia from that film. But yeah, like the food fight scene in that film is awesome. But I'm still, me. I have a thing in my heart for Mel Brooks. So Blazing Saddles is for me, and Mike. I'm gonna say Blazing Saddles for you.
Yeah, Blazing Saddles.
It's like your favorite Mel Brooks film.
No, I would have argued Hook too.
Yeah, I think Hook is a good film. Hook is a good food fight scene. Well, do you want to vote for Hook? You can vote for Hook. You can knock Blazing Saddles out of the best food fight winner category.
I fought for Blazing Saddles to begin with.
That was your first mention when I told you about this category.
Yeah, so
it's funny. I like running through these with my wife beforehand too. She always likes to hear about like some of the movies we're going to talk about. So when I mentioned Hook, that was her choice too. She loves the Hook food fight scene. The next one I have is funniest food scene. The nominees are for Blazing Saddles, the farting around a fire while eating beans scene. For Harry Met Sally, the orgasm in the diner scene.
What she's having.
The Young Frankenstein hermit scene. I was going to make espresso. Also, the Young Frankenstein dinner scene. Oh, you like it, do you?
I didn't say anything.
You just made a
yummy sound.
That means he was the size of his sword.
That's an enormous Waldstücker. And the last nominee, Lunch with the Breakfast Club. We see all the crazy lunches that they have.
The Breakfast Club thing, it's got to go because the hair shaking on top of the sandwich. She's so fucking weird.
I thought you liked Ali Sheedy.
I do like Ali Sheedy. That is weird.
You just don't like her. You just don't like her pixie sticks and dandruff sandwich.
That's right.
I like Molly Ringwald pulling out the sushi. I like Emilio Estevez has the giant bag of protein.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a funny scene. I picked the Blazing Saddles farting around the fire bean scene, but as I picked it, I'm reconsidering my choice. I think the funniest food scene on this list has to be Young Frankenstein hermit scene.
With the soup?
With Gene Hackman and the soup and the cigar and burning his crotch, sliding his finger on fire, breaking the mug full of wine. And that's just that final line when he breaks out of the house and runs away, and he's like, "Wait, where are you going?" I was going to make espresso, which was an ad-lib line from Gene Hackman. Also, the beginning of the scene when he breaks in and he's touching him with his hands, and he's like, "Oh, you're a mute, an incredibly large mute." I just laugh so hard at that scene all the time, even now after seeing it a million times. So, Mike, it comes down to you. Which one do you vote for? Or Kevin, you didn't really vote for one, did you?
No, I said which one I was taking out from me.
You kind of said, let's take this one off the list. But so which one would each of you guys vote for then? Go ahead, either one of you.
Go ahead, Kev.
I mean, look, it's not the funniest. It's just the most memorable. Is the diner scene with Harry Met Sally. But the funniest, the funniest has to be the dinner scene or the hermit scene, I should say, with Young Frankenstein.
Okay,
and
Michael,
it's gonna take a sweep.
It's a sweep, knocking out Blazing Saddles as the number one contender. We got Young Frankenstein and the hermit scene, which at the time was an uncredited appearance by Gene Hackman.
Mm-hmm.
No, I love that fucking scene, man. I like me a good farting scene in a movie too, but I don't think that and it's funny because it's two Mel Brooks movies anyway. So, so moving on from Mel Brooks for a minute here, most romantic food movies. The nominees are, and I know I'm probably gonna have to explain a couple of these to some of you guys. The nominees are Chocolat, Big Night, Eat, Pray, Love, Lady and the Tramp, which is mainly the spaghetti and meatball scene, and Waitress, starring Kerry Russell. So, which ones do I need to explain, Mike? All of them?
Well, I've seen Lady and the Tramp. I've heard of Chocolat. I've heard of Eat, Pray, Love.
Chocolat is a story about a French woman and her daughter who open up a chocolate shop in a small remote village in France that shakes up the rigid morality of the community. Stars Juliette Binoche, Judi Dench, Johnny Depp, and Alfred Molina. And then, there's a romance that sparks up between Juliette Binoche and Johnny Depp in the film, which is what makes it such a romantic comedy. It's also one of those films that makes you go when you're watching it because there's a lot of chocolate involved. Big Night is a movie that I really like. It's not so much a romantic film in the sense of like people falling in love, as it's a romantic, it's a love letter to food. So it's about these two Italian brothers who own this restaurant in New York that's kind of failing, and they have this one big night where they invite a bunch of people to the restaurant to try out the food that they make there because they're supposed to have an appearance by the singer Louis Prima, who eventually doesn't show up. But it's just basically watching them make the food that makes you kind of fall in love with the process of, I actually just considered putting this in the best restaurant category as well because it is a movie about a restaurant. Eat, Pray, Love is a Julia Roberts film based on a best-selling novel where she travels the world after getting divorced and kind of eats, prays, and fucks her way around the world.
Do we have new scenes?
Not from Julia Roberts. There's some naked
if it was made in the 80s, there'd be plenty of boobies in that movie.
There's a lot of naked male ass in it, though, if you're okay with that. Lady and the Tramp's the spaghetti scene, mainly, and then The Waitress is a movie starring Kerry Russell. Was it a play first, Kev, or was it a movie first?
No, it was a movie first, and then it became a play. Yeah, movie first.
Because I think it's a musical now, right?
It is. It's a musical now. A lot of the musical was written by Sarah Bareilles.
Yeah.
For it, and the original movie The person who wrote it was actually one of the characters in it, and she was murdered shortly after the movie was finished filming. I think she was murdered maybe prior to the release.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Her name?
Adrian Shelley.
Adrian Shelley.
He was
Yeah.
also the director of the film, too.
Yeah. So that was
Wow.
hers, and then once the film finished, she was murdered. I don't know by who, but it was a movie first.
Yes. Stars Kerry Russell and everybody's favorite heartthrob, Nathan Fillion, as well as Cheryl Hines, Andy Griffith in one of his last roles. It's a movie about a woman named Jenna, played by Kerry Russell, who is a pregnant, unhappily married waitress in the Deep South. She meets a newcomer to her town and falls into an unlikely relationship and a last attempt at happiness. And there's a lot of pie baking in this movie.
Yes, and the pies are specific to her mood.
Yeah.
She's very reluctant. She's not happy that she's pregnant, and it's mostly because her husband's an asshole.
Yeah.
So this is just one more thing tying her to him. So,
Mike, I saw you make a little reaction there. What's up?
I just thought of a funniest food scene.
Even though we just did that category?
Yeah, because pie made me think about it.
What is it?
The pie scene in Men in Black 2.
Oh, the pie scene in Men in Black 2.
Where, what's his name is crying. He's about to be neuralized.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because
I say there's a pie scene in Men in Black 3 as well.
I haven't seen Men in Black 3.
He says, there's nothing that a little pie can't help solve. Like, no problem a little pie can't help solve. And they go to the diner and get pie. But back to the romantic food category one. I picked for the winner. It's just another one where, like, I picked one out and then I'm kind of like going back on it now because I'm thinking about Big Night and it's making me hungry again. But I have Chocolat as the winner. Kevin, which one would you like to go for?
I'm going to go with Waitress.
And Michael, Lady and the Tramp, since it's the only one you saw.
Well, the way you described it, I may want to go watch Waitress now.
Yeah, you should watch it. It's a good movie.
You should watch it. There's good comedic scenes to it, and it's a really well done movie.
I'm gonna give Waitress the winner for most romantic food movie, just because I feel like this is one that could take a while to kind of figure out a winner for.
Yeah, I go with it.
The next one I have here is single scene about food in a film.
You missed one.
What's the one I missed before I read the nominees?
The Godfather.
Godfather.
The
spaghetti scene. Okay, let me put that in here. Godfather making the sauce, right?
Making the sauce.
Making sauce. So our nominees are The Godfather, the scene in which Clemenza teaches Michael Corleone how to make the sauce. First, you put in your meatballs and your sausage. You add a little bit of wine, and then I put in a pinch of sugar, and that's my magic.
What am I paying you for? And somebody comes in.
You never know, kid. You might have to make dinner for 20 guys someday.
Well, there's always.
Why don't you tell that girl you love her, Michael? I love you with all of my heart. If I don't see you again, I'm going to die.
There's also the scene where he shoots the Turk.
And he shoots the guys in the restaurant. That could be a restaurant scene. The other nominees are Pulp Fiction, the $5 milkshake scene, where they order hamburgers and milkshakes while they're at Jackrabbit Slim's, which has the waiters and waitresses that are all playing different characters from the 50s. Cooking the Crab in The Little Mermaid. Le parso. It's going to get hot in that big silver pot. I have Be Our Guest from Beauty and the Beast. Be our guest, put our service to the test. Tie a napkin around your neck, Sherry, and we'll provide the rest. And then I have the prison.
Great stuff. It's delicious.
Yeah. Then I have the prison dinner scene from The Goodfellas, where we learn Paulie's trick about slicing the garlic with the razor blade, because you get it nice and thin so that it melts in the pan. It's a very good method. Yeah. Cooking steak on a frying pan.
Cut
You
the
always
joint
put
up.
you always put too many onions in the sauce. How many onions you put in that sauce, Junior? Like 3 onions. 3 onions. You only need 1. So I have for my favorite, and just because it just means a lot to me as somebody who grew up in an Italian family, the prison scene from Goodfellas. Because I have a buddy in my family to this day who still cuts the garlic with the razor blade because Paulie did it in the Goodfellas. Although the Godfather one's a close runner-up.
I'm going to pick the Godfather making the sauce. I love that
I think
scene.
I'm going to go Goodfellas. You know, it's the one
right.
that sticks out most in my head.
So we got the winner for the best single scene about food in a film, the prison dinner scene in the Goodfellas. This one I had a lot of fun with, and please let me know if I forgot any. There are so many good ones out there. There's so many horror films I could have put on this list too, like Cannibal Holocaust. Or Hannibal. Oh my God, the Hannibal scene. We're putting Hannibal on there. I'm adding Hannibal. Hold on. Hannibal.
Liver, lava beans?
It's Hannibal. Well, that's just, he just talks about it. You don't actually see it. In the film Hannibal, you actually see him eating Ray Liotta's brains.
Yes. Or actually, Ray Liotta eating Ray Liotta's brains.
Yes, feeding Ray Liotta's brains to Ray Liotta.
Mm-hmm.
So our nominees are Hannibal, feeding Ray Liotta his own brains. Sausage Party, which is a animated film about food that ends with a food orgy.
Yeah.
We have Soylent Green, where we find out that Soylent Green is people. You have The Help,
from the best stuff on earth.
the other white meat.
Mm-hmm.
We have The Help, where they serve the ladies shit pies. Beetlejuice, the Deo scene. Deo. And American Pie, where he fucks the pie. Well, we'll just tell your mother that we ate it. So, a lot of good ones on here. I had to explain Soylent Green to my wife. She never heard of that movie. I said it's a Charlton Heston film in which they're running out of food to feed the masses, so they start grinding people up into protein blocks that they feed them, and it's not till you get to the end of the film that you find out that the Soylent Green that they're feeding these people is made out of dead bodies. Soylent Green is people. But I picked my personal favorite because I remember how shocking it was when I first saw it in the theater, and how funny it was the American Pie fucker scene.
Right.
Although having seen Sausage Party, I remember seeing Sausage Party, and then Mike's wife at the time worked for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I warned her not to warn the bigs not to take the littles to go see this movie. So they had a tendency to just take them to see any animated film. There's actually a few really funny scenes in that film that would count for this, for shocking use of food, but I went with the orgy at the end. Mike, which one are you going to vote for?
Dale. Oh, Dale.
Dale. Daylight come and we want to go home. That. Me said that, me said that, me said that, me said that. Oh, Kevin, which one are you going with?
Oh, shocking. I mean, Hannibal shocking. It turns my stomach every time I think of it. But I'd have to say Beetlejuice. The whole, the shrimp hand that comes out and grabs their faces, and the little
dancing around the table. It's such a great scene. Such an iconic scene. It's like the scene that kind of sold the film in the trailer.
Yeah.
So Beetlejuice.
And anytime
takes
you hear
the crown.
Deo anymore, that's exactly what you think of.
I know. I had voted on American Pie, but I got knocked out by Beetlejuice and the Deo scene. So I'm gonna just recap where we're at so far before we get to the last couple here. So best restaurant movie ended up going to Ratatouille. Best food fight ended up going to Hook. Funniest scene ended up going to Young Frankenstein and the Hermit scene. I think it went to Hook. Didn't it go to Hook? Or was it Blazing Saddles? No, it was Blazing Saddles. I'm sorry, Blazing Saddles. Funniest food scene ended up going to Young Frankenstein and the Hermit. Most romantic film ended up going to Waitress. Single food scene ended up going to the prison dinner scene in Goodfellas. Shocking use of food went to Beetlejuice and the Deo scene. That takes us to a new category I added earlier today because my wife and I were talking about it, and I thought it was kind of funny. Best ordering of food in a film. So for this one, I have quotes to go with it. So the nominees are Harold and Kumar go to White Castle, the scene where they finally get to White Castle. This is their food order. Harold says, I will have 30 sliders, 4 large cherry Cokes, and 5 orders of French fries. To which Kumar responds, I'll have the same thing, but make mine Diet Cherry Coke.
You missed the food order.
Which one did I miss?
It was Lethal Weapon 2. They
Okay.
fuck you in the drive-thru.
Lethal Weapon 2, fuck you at the drive-thru.
They fuck you in the drive-thru. You can't eat tuna.
I have Ratatouille when Anton Ego at the end of the film says to the waiter, surprise me. And the rat makes him Ratatouille, which gives him the memory shot back to his childhood when his mom used to make it for him. I love that scene. I have A Christmas Story, the Chinese food scene. So this is the very end of the film where the turkey gets eaten by the dogs. So they end up going to a Chinese restaurant because it's the only place open on Christmas. They bring out the duck, which still has the head attached. And the dad says, it's still smiling at us.
It's smiling.
So the waiter takes out the cleaver and chops the head off right there in front of the family. I have Blues Brothers. Anytime Elwood and Jake Blues ask for food in the film, the order goes as such. Elwood wants white bread, toasted, dry, with nothing on it. And Jake wants 4 whole fried chickens and a Coke. And then we have When Harry Met Sally, Sally ordering salad on her date with Billy Crystal. I would like salad, but I want the salad dressing on the side. I would also like pie heated, but I don't want the ice cream on the top. I want it on the side. And I would like strawberry instead of vanilla ice cream if you have it. If not, then no ice cream, just whipped cream, but only if it's real. If it's out of a can, then nothing at all. Which, as we all know, is basically how my wife orders when she goes to a restaurant.
Yes.
Pretty much.
So those are our nominees. I am personally, as much as I love Blues Brothers and Ratatouille, I'm going with that When Harry Met Sally salad ordering scene just because of my personal connection to it.
As much as I love the one I brought up, they fuck you in the drive-thru, I'm going with Blues Brothers. I love when they do that.
When they order the 4 fried chickens and a Coke.
Oh.
Kevin, it's all up to you then.
Oh, I was thinking about this. I thought back to Clerks 2 and when Wanda Sykes was placing an order, but I don't think that was much about the order.
As much as it was about taking it back. Come to think of it, my grandmother was a little racist.
I think with this one, I got to go with Christmas Story. It's cherished.
It's a 3-way tie.
We got a 3-way tie. How do we break this tie? So it's When Harry Met Sally ordering salads, Blues Brothers, Elwood and Jake, unique order, Christmas Story, Chinese food.
I think you have to take out the 3 that we've all chosen, and then whatever's left we have to go through.
So we chose the Harry Met Sally, Blues Brothers, and Christmas Story.
Yeah,
those are our choices.
Yes, so we have to.
So eliminate the other 3,
yep,
and just leave the ones that we voted on. We just have to figure out how to break that tie.
Oh no, I was saying if we got rid of the 3 that we chose, then whatever the last.
That's not how tie breaking works.
Nobody's happy.
That's not how you break a tie.
Well, you guys know I'm not going to vote for Christmas Story. So
I know you're not. So I was going to bring up the Wheel of Destiny real quick. Hold on. You know the Wheel of Destiny, Mike. It's the thing we use to choose dinner when nobody else can fucking choose.
Also,
But nobody can figure out what they want for dinner. We use the Wheel of Destiny. So we're going to go
Happens a
with
lot.
Harry Met Sally. Right? So Harry. And then we're going to go with Blues Brothers. And we're going to go with Christmas Story. And now we're going to spin the wheel. Here we go. And I'll show you guys the wheel up here so you can see it. I'm not cheating. And it lands on Harry Met Sally. So that's going to be our winner for this category. As it should be. Then I have some non-category honorable mentions here. Alice in Wonderland, The Tea Party. Which is
happy birthday to you.
Yeah,
to
which is a very famous scene from that movie. Julie and Julia, which is a movie about Julia Child, starring Meryl Streep and Amy Adams. And the Baby Ruth scene in Goonies.
Baby Ruth.
Baby Ruth. Baby
Ruth.
Ruth. And then I have one last category. It's the Brad Pitt Junk Food Award, which can only go to one person, and that is Brad Pitt in Ocean's 11, who, if you don't know this, in every single scene of that film has some kind of junk food in his hand.
Didn't we bring Tony Stark up in one of the movies?
Yes, we brought Tony Stark up as a potential candidate for the Brad Pitt Junk Food Award, but it's got to go to Brad Pitt because he originated it.
And it is called the Brad Pitt Junk Food Award.
Yeah, it is the Brad Pitt Junk Food Award. In the film Ocean's 11, there is a scene where he has a shrimp cocktail in his hand. There's a scene where he has a hamburger in his hand. There's a scene where he's eating nachos and cheese. There's a scene where he's eating popcorn. There's a scene where he's drinking like a soda or something. There's another scene, I think when they're at Elliot Gould's house, he's eating something there. And it's like, yeah, every scene he's in, he's got food in his hand. So that is
was the joke.
That was the joke. So those were our categories. We hope you enjoyed our list of food scenes and films. If you have anything you would like to add to our list, feel free to send it our way. Let us know if we missed any films, or let us know if there's a category of your own that you think we should have included. Mm-hmm. We can always do it on another episode at a later date. Mike, do you have any beer trivia or history for us this evening?
Beer around the world. Agave sap from the Magnui plant has long been used in what is now central Mexico to create a fermented beverage called palcu. It is an ancient drink dating from before 200 AD, milky white and a bit viscous in texture. It has a yeasty, sour flavor similar to kombucha. It is only mildly alcoholic. There you go.
Mildly alcoholic? Why are we talking about it then?
It came on a beer calendar, so what do you want from me?
Well, let's talk about our drinks again this evening. Anybody have anything extra to add about their drinks?
I'm out of mine.
I just poured myself my second pint from this, so
I'm on my third. I finished my third pint.
It's okay. Was this nitro, Mike, or was this just regular?
Just regular.
Oh, very, very little carbonation. Extremely light on the carbonation. But overall, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I like the Irish Stout. That's the one I use for the beer bread, so I'm going to be saving it up for that now. Although I also have that banana beer that you got me that I have to try out for the beer bread as well.
Yes.
I was going to try to make it today, but it was 118 degrees outside, and I didn't feel like firing up the oven. So
who you telling?
Hey guys, the pool was warm today.
It was a fucking hot day today.
The pool was warm today. You would have enjoyed it.
Oh, so we came on the wrong day.
We came on the wrong day.
I, of course, has been drinking the Bevel's Backbone Orange Smash tonight. 10% alcohol by volume. I'm just finishing my second one, and I'm feeling pretty good. I might have a third.
There you go.
On a third, I'll be passed out.
Benefits to our Friday night recordings.
Yeah, I know. Friday night record. Not that I ever fucking stopped on a Thursday night either.
No, that's true.
All right, I'm going to pause this on. So, thank you for joining us tonight for episode 108. What's on the menu? We hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as we enjoyed recording it for you. Don't forget to drop us an email at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com or visit linktree.com/filmsandfermentation to find all of our social media and podcast links. You can get message out to us very quickly on Twitter if you like, at Films Fermented. Especially with this episode tonight, if you have any movies that you think we should have added to the list that we missed, or any categories we should talk about at a later date, please reach out to us and let us know. You can also, as I said, go to Patreon to support the show, or go to teespring.com to purchase some of our merchandise. Don't forget
we are going old school. We are going to bring back the homing pigeons. Okay, we're setting up a coop in the back of Mike's yard.
Yes,
my yard. Oh hell no!
Yeah, no, the back of your yard. You already set aside that area.
Like the pigeons and the producers.
2/3 of us live in Jersey. They need to be in Jersey.
They're not homing pigeons; they're homing seagulls.
Like the pigeons and the producers. Enough. We're going to make a play. Oh, I forgot. That's a good food scene right there. Many different herrings. Don't forget to stop by the crossroads between pickled and fermented next week for episode 109. I don't have a title for this episode yet because I have to kind of describe it to you. According to the MPAA, a PG-13 film is allowed to have one use of the F word. The F word being fuck, of course. So we are going to pick out some PG-13 films that did not take advantage of this rule and decide where in those films we think the F word would fit best. This is likely going to be our final episode because I feel like we're going to get kicked off of most platforms. For running this episode.
If we gotta call the episode "Fuck This,"
we are right.
It should be a fun. It should be a really fun episode. So make sure you check us out next week, episode 109, Films and Fermentation, the finale.
That's a lot of F words.
That's a lot of F words. Yeah. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
Bon appetit, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.